Welcome to BIA, Canada's top black media provider. Whether you're looking for shows on fashion, art, music, or simple lifestyle, we bring you the best content the black community in Canada has to offer and so much more. And better yet, do you have an idea for a project you'd like us to help you with? We provide equipment, studio, and office space, as well as a team of dedicated individuals to help you bring those ideas to life. So don't wait. Check out our new website at biamedia.ca for more information on how to contact us and start creating today. BIA Media, your way.
Hello, and welcome to Getting Real with Paula. My name is Paula Alphonse, and tonight we are discussing conscious eating with Liz Urbina. Liz is the founder of the Diet Free Conscious Eating Academy, and she believes that diets simply do not work. And if they did, then we would not have to keep going back over and over and over to try and lose a few pounds here and there. She does have a point. So, tag along to get a whole new perspective on potential unhealthy habits, as well as new ways to get results that actually last. So, without further ado, let's bring our guest on. Good evening, Liz.
Hello, good evening, Paula. Oh my goodness, what an honor to be able to be here with you.
Thank you for joining us on Getting Real with Paula. It's always a pleasure to hear different perspective on all phases of what life is about. And what I liked about talking to you is, we're in the beginning of the year. We have all kinds of resolutions. Whatever we didn't do before Christmas or whatever we did over Christmas is just like, need to get this off my... So this is the part where, we're looking for the better way. And given the pandemic as well, we're spending a lot more time sitting down. So that too doesn't help. So let's start with the introduction before we start talking about all kinds of things and we get distracted. Can you tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and how long have you been doing this conscious eating?
Yeah, so I having number one, I having a full-time working mom for the last 18 years. And just with that, there's a lot of stuff that you can picture has been going on. I have also been an engineer for the last 22 years. So that's my main, it's been my career. And I have been working in the oil and gas industry in several countries. My country of origin is Venezuela. So that's where I went to school. That's where I started in my career. And I emigrated to Europe, actually, when I was 4 years, when my son was 4 years old. I emigrated to Europe and worked in the UK, Spain. And then moved into Canada. So have been in Canada for 13 years. And that has been amazing. This is the country that we call home. And and I have been working or practicing conscious eating, I would say maybe for the last 13 years or so, I have been consciously making better choices about the foods that I eat. Yeah.
And that's important. And I know you have a whole story behind um, what got you on that thinking with respect to your conscious eating. So, can you share a bit of what led you to actively change your diet?
Yes, I love this question because a lot of people ask me, well, how come an engineer is now a conscious eating coach? Like where did that come from? and and the reason is because I lived myself the consequences of
Mhm.
not making our conscious choices, not only in what we eat, but in a lot of other areas of our lives, but just focusing on the eating part. I was one of those busy moms, particularly after leaving my home country, restarting my career,
Mhm.
trying to restart my career with a 4-year-old child, jumping literally. I was jumping, well, in Europe from country to country, sometimes with my son, sometimes without him.
Mhm.
And, all of the things that implies, right? Like English was not my first language, of course. So trying to improve my English as second language was another focus. So eating was definitely not a priority for me, eating
Mhm.
well and taking shortcuts. It was like,
We all know about those shortcuts. Yeah.
yeah, right?
Mhm.
So shortcuts was like the rule, right? The rule and not the exception.
Mhm.
And even though I was seeing and feeling the consequences that I thought were not relevant, that I thought were not, were things that I could live with. Like, okay, I was not happy anymore with the size of my pants. I was having a lot of skin issues, like
Mhm.
these adult acne that I didn't know
Mhm.
where it came from. And I couldn't, like, there was no lotion or cosmetic treatment that could make it better. um Also, I was having my energy itself, like,
Mhm.
and I would blame, the stress, and of course there was a
The
stress
new
related,
job, the trial, everything that is your life is a stress. Yeah.
everything. But I was literally surviving mode, like
Mhm.
surviving the days, drinking 3-4 coffees a day. And I thought, and here's one thing, I thought that just I having always a very active person, and I love exercising. So I thought that alone would just make it up for everything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
no, because I go for my half an hour or 45 minutes jog every day, or because I do my 30 minutes or 45 minutes workout, I'm making it up for all of the other
Mhm.
choices, all of the other
Mhm.
things I'm not taking care of.
Mhm.
And I was so wrong.
I love the way you say it because, when we're talking about the unhealthy patterns, and this is the patterns or trade offs that we make. And it's just, if I do this, okay, I'll just stay a little longer on the bike, or I'll take a longer, blah, blah, blah. So you make choices, and then, whoops,
Yeah,
whatever happens,
exactly.
happens.
Exactly. And the issue with those things is that we don't see the consequences immediately, right? That's the other problem, that those are like compounding effects that we start seeing little by little. And because we are living in this constant roller coaster or hamster wheel lifestyle,
Mhm.
we tend to not stop and pay attention. to what is happening and dismiss all of the signs and the symptoms that our own bodies send us, until sometimes it's like a little late, or until there's something bigger that is happening, right?
And in your case, what was that bigger thing that actually brought, okay, need to think about this?
Yeah, for me, it was unexplained infertility at the age of 34. At a point in time when I felt I was ready and settled in my new home
Mhm.
and ready to give my son siblings, being away from your home country where there's with no family, extended family, is like you literally want to make your family bigger and,
Mhm.
eventually have these Christmas gatherings with more people around
Yes,
around
we
you,
have
right?
a vision. Okay. And especially when we were abroad, it's this sense where I used to having, I don't know, a small party was 40 people. And now it's just like there's the two or three of us. That's it. So, yeah, I understand.
So in my mind, I always had the number three, as the number of children I wanted to have in my life, and realizing that that was not gonna happen for me.
Mhm.
It was like this moment where you really figure out what not having time means.
Mhm.
And this is something I tell my clients and my community a lot. We don't really know. Every time someone tells me I don't have time for cooking, I don't have time for, I tell those people,
Yep.
you don't know what not having time means.
Mhm.
Like, ask someone who is really sick, who
Mhm.
is running out of time in their lives.
Yep.
And then those are the people who understand. And that was the way, well, I was not dying,
Mhm.
but I felt like part of me died, with that diagnosis,
Mhm.
right? And so it's like, oh my God. And at first I didn't make the connections. I
Mhm.
didn't make I didn't put together, the dots of my symptoms, of my previous symptoms, of my lifestyle choices, because that's the other part of the problem. You go to the doctor and, they do all the tests, they do all the things, they put me on these treatments, and I don't remember a single time they asking me how was my diet.
Mhm.
They did ask me, do you smoke? Do you drink too much alcohol? Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But they never asked me about how was I eating.
And
And
that's this bit of disconnect sometimes with the health.
yes.
And mind you, we're talking maybe a decade or 2 decades ago, and we're getting better at making connections between those elements. But it used to be whatever is available, I eat. As long as it's not killing me right now, we're fine. But now we know better. It might taste good, but that doesn't mean it's good for you. So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, so that was kind of the wake up call for me. And the real moment when I started connecting the dots was really when I decided, and again, it was a choice to just step out from the guilt and the blame and the why is this happening to me,
Mhm.
and step into the, okay, what is the learning, what is the opportunity, and
Mhm.
why is this happening for me,
Mhm.
kind of shift, right? So that is when I started doing a lot of research, and being an engineer, I love science. So that is where I went. I didn't want to just find opinions, and because you Google like healthy eating, healthy diet, and oh my goodness,
All
you
kinds of
get
things.
all kinds of things and
And
contradictions.
some of them
And
are you for real? Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So it's like so many opinions, so many, and that is where I started with all of these contradictory information. Like it's so sad that we have so much information at our fingertips, and at the same time it's like almost too much. It's
Mhm.
so overwhelming. And so that is when I started going into scientific reviews, peer reviewed papers, and I was like just mind blown by all of the information, all of the scientific proof of foods that are commonly advertised and even recommended as healthy, that are actually not healthy for a lot of us, for most of us.
Okay.
And it's like, how is this happening, right? How is this not going out there for more people to know? And
And
that's where
that
everything
that's the
started.
power of the food industry, because there are things, and I'll mention just one thing. When I was young, that I just could not get into, and it was that liquid cheese. I'm not going to
Mm,
name the brand, but you know the brand. It's yellow, and it's just okay. Is it cheese or is it not cheese? And when you were looking at the labels, there's a lot of things that don't feel like cheese. And I'm like, I know for me, in our household, my mom very quickly, yes, the regular cheese are more expensive, but at least those are cheese. This, I don't know, there's a lot of whatever preservative and other elements. And that's the part, if you don't know, it is whatever is unhealthy is often right next to options that are healthy. When we're looking at just the aisle that is all of the, how could I so treats? There are treats where whether it's chips, whether it's Cheetos or whatever it is, and you're like, I'm not sure, and that's the challenge. So
yeah.
before we get into the specifics, I want you to maybe share with us what are some example of the challenge you might have faced when you started altering your diet. Because let's just say, if we're just talking about sugar, removing sugar for one's diet feels like you're killing me. So, so tell us a bit of how did that path go for you?
Yeah, and it's many challenges, like many challenges, starting with making the time, right?
Yeah.
Starting with finding the way to prioritize the home meals, the homemade meals, right? The cooking at home and the taking control of what you're really putting into your body, like not
Mhm.
just buying the prepackaged stuff, right? And put it into the microwave or the oven and done, boom, you have a meal there, right? That
Mhm.
was the way I used to go about it. And so, and to make things, worse, I was a single mom from Monday to Thursdays because my husband was working away from home. So it was
Mhm.
like, okay, the hockey
Even
mom,
more
the
rush.
piano lesson mom, and the full time working mom, and so time was definitely one of the biggest challenges, and so yeah, but the answer again is okay. We all have the same amount of time, is how we're using it, is
Yes.
what are the priorities for us. And when
Mhm.
we make things a priority, we make it work. We definitely find a way to do it. So,
So what made you, because anybody who has to go through that struggle, and there might be quite a few other women right now with young kids coming in from school or from daycare, we're rushing, still have to do this, figure out laundry and all of everything that needs to be done.
right.
What made you succeed in that journey to healthier eating? What would be those
Yeah.
two or three things that you know that you've done and you say that made it stick for me?
So, so in terms of overcoming the time challenge, it was the planning. it was prioritizing the planning process. And when I mean planning is from the not just planning the meals, but planning my time. And really, because it's like, okay, so you are telling me, or I was saying I didn't have time, but I would spend maybe an hour every day watching Netflix, right? And it's like, okay, and the excuse is, okay, I
need to
deserve
relax.
it, I need to relax, I need to unwind, right? And it's like, yes, I mean, prioritizing our self-care is important, but is that the best way though? Right? So putting it as a priority to plan things, to plan my schedule, to plan, and of course, it has to be flexible because life happens,
Happens.
things change. So flexibility is a big thing. But if you, I love this quote, and I forget who said it, but if you, so failing to plan is planning to fail,
Yes.
literally, right? So it was literally setting aside time every week to, okay, think about, go through my kitchen, what it is I have, what it is I don't have, what I need, literally make, the grocery shopping list as
According to the
realistic,
meal
because
plan.
yeah, according,
Okay.
like, think about what it is I'm gonna make for next week, and then I set aside the time for the grocery shopping, set aside the time for washing and preparing all of my vegetables, because that's the other thing. I would say tip number 2 is you want to make easy the right choices,
Yeah.
right? You want to make the right choices the easy choice.
Yes.
So in order to eat the things that are good for us, we have to have them available easily.
Yes.
And so,
Chips versus already cut cucumbers. Yeah.
yes, and washed it and ready to go,
Mhm.
just to grab from the fridge, right? When you're in a rush. And meal prepping, like in terms of making, having something ready always, no matter what. Because the unexpected things are gonna happen, right? It happened to everyone. So if you are gonna I started thinking bigger. Like, even though we were like just a family of 3, instead of just making the soup for one time, I would make it like for 3 or 4 times, and then I freeze them, and I
Okay.
have a soup ready whenever I have, something like hockey game late today. I know I have a soup there that I can just grab and heat. Of course, it's not ideal, but it's never going to be ideal, right? It's not like freshly made. The taste might change a little bit, or the texture, but is either that, or
Pizza.
you go and pick up Chinese food that is going to be all greasy and, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I'm hearing you, because those are all considerations that as parents we have to make. And sometimes is, yes, I did the grocery, but I forgot to take the meat out. So okay, so what are we gonna? Can we do something vegetarian? Can we? So it's this part, but it's a constant struggle to figure out how I'm gonna do this. And as a parent, coming back from work with kids that are in the car and say, what's for dinner, ma? Yeah, it's just like, okay, need to be quick on my feet. And sometimes you go for the easy, which might not be the best. But when you have those easy options at home, then it's a lot easier. And I
yeah.
totally understand the meal prep, because I had one of my sisters, oh my gosh, she would make a schedule for 3 weeks, and then one weekend she would cook everything, and that
Wow.
would be one weekend in a month. And I'm like, I'm impressed. I'll be honest, I never got there. So there were other options, but as you say, you have to make the healthy choice the easy choice. And as you do that, then you get to have something that actually lasts.
Yeah.
And sometimes for me, it's also this part about working on your mindset, because from switching your mind from I don't have time to I will make time requires me to say, yeah, there might be something on Netflix, but you know what? Netflix works 24/7. So we can do this, and then that would be my reward rather than the thing that will keep me away from the healthy food.
Absolutely, yes.
In your work with other women, what would be some of the myths that about healthy eating that women have, or women or men have?
Yeah, so many myths. The first one is that it is boring, it is tasteless, it is like it is just salads. Like eating healthy means just eating salads every day, and that is so no truth.
Mhm.
And that it has to be, that it is also complicated, that you have to spend a lot of time in the kitchen in order to make it happen. And that is, so these all of these go back again to mindset.
Mhm.
You just said it, to start shifting our minds and into the seeing the opportunities and the possibilities.
Mhm.
And and that is one of the things I love the most doing. And I do a lot of cooking demonstrations in my community, just to show that it doesn't have to be complicated, that it doesn't have to be boring and tasteless, that there's actually so many ways that you can incorporate healthy ingredients, and
Mhm.
you can actually, and that's another of my favorite things to do, is helping people transform their favorite foods into healthier versions.
Mhm.
There's always a way to
Mhm.
make your foods healthier. And that is why I'm so against dieting,
Mhm.
because it's not sustainable. It's just focused on the obtaining the one goal of,
Yep.
losing however many pounds you want to
And then
lose.
I can do everything I want. I can eat it because you want. Most people when they go in the diet, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna be hungry all the time. I'm gonna have to drink water, eat salads, and then it might be you feel your stomach growling and stuff. I wish I could, and those are myths because when you stop and start looking at a healthy diet, there are so many options. Not only there's options, but it's also the sense where you don't have to be hungry. You just have to
No.
pick what is this that you, because if you're eating green salads all the time, yeah, you'll be hungry. But if you add maybe whether some protein or whatever else to that salad, then it starts being a little more filling. So
And
yeah.
yeah, and is this mindset shift also into, like, a lot of people come to me after having been on a diet, on many diets, trying
Mhm.
many diets for a long time, and either being successful at losing, reaching the goal they wanted to reach, but then going back to wherever they started, or even worse.
Mhm.
So so and then here's the thing, like, a lot of people feel like they have to give up their carbohydrates, they have to give up the sweets they love in their life, they have to give up. And I tell them, you don't have to. You just have to become smarter and pay attention. Like, the one thing I say is, it's not about the calories, it's about how much nutrition am I getting with these calories.
Mhm.
One of the biggest problems with the way we eat is that we overeat. We eat a lot of calories, but they lack in nutrition.
Yeah.
So we are literally starving our bodies
Mhm.
from what they need. But even though we're starving our bodies, we are gaining weight, and we
Mhm.
are, and it's so
Because
like,
you're eating the wrong things. And the same
exactly.
way they tell you there's nothing worse than going to do the grocery when you're hungry because you're picking up everything. So it is also, yeah, no, let's not do that. At least I've learned a few times. And it is just
Yes.
where, okay, whatever it is, if you're hungry, drink something, whatever it is, but don't start buying because you get yourself to the cash and it's just like three times the amount that you anticipated. And it's just like, what? Yes.
Exactly. And then I find a lot of my clients saying that they even when they start working with me, they eat more than what they used to eat in their diet. Like when they were counting calories or weighting their food, they eat more and they eat even desserts and sweets, and they are losing weight
Yeah.
and they are feeling better. They are not feeling bloated. They are not feeling, and it's like, of course, because you are prioritizing nutrition over empty calories,
Yeah.
right?
Over filling up the body, because that's often done. You're
Yes.
filling up without paying attention.
Yes.
In you,
Yes.
in your experience, and you've mentioned a little earlier that you do cooking demonstration, and that's something I might want to come back to. But in your experience as a descendant of Latin American ancestry, there's got to be a cultural component in favor or against conscious eating. What's your take on that?
Yes. There are several components, I would say. The balance of them, I'd say, are against conscious eating because in our culture, in South American, I think, culture altogether, there's a lot of refined processed flours, fried foods, a lot of overconsumption of meat and dairy. That might not sound too far away from North America too, but I guess our dishes there's a lot of frying things and flours. If you're familiar with Mexican food or Colombian food, we have a lot of dishes that involve using these refined flours and a lot of oils. And so that is challenging. That is challenging because particularly the frying part, the fried foods, is like every party, every gathering, every family gathering, every family celebration had to have those kinds of food. Otherwise, they were not like, what is this? what are we doing here? And that was kind of the first resistance I got, even from my own family, from my husband, from my son. Oh my goodness, he used to love empanadas. I don't know if you've heard of those.
I know empanadas. Yeah.
Okay, that was like, Mom, why aren't you making empanadas anymore? And and so there's absolutely this cultural background that impacts. Actually, I sometimes have this feeling that even people who have come to my community because they know I am Latin American, and then they are hoping that I will be sharing, these Latin American foods, recipes in there, and I don't. I literally don't. Like, I have found ways to make some of our dishes healthier in many ways, but it's not all of them. It's not actually the most, I guess, the most typical ones are not in there because they involve like processed meats. And I'm like, after learning, how processed meats are not so good for our health, it's like, okay, how do I replace our processed meats, right? So it's definitely a challenge, and it's actually one of the things I tell my clients. And for any cultural background, wanting to make the change is not easy, right? Taking small steps is the way to go. Not wanting to do it all and wanting to do it all perfectly at first. because it's gonna be it's not gonna be sustainable. Period. And
And
so, and for the family, the way my experience was that, well, when I started making these changes, my son was like 7 years old, and it was actually easier and fun because I brought him in with me into my kitchen. And that is my number one recommendation for moms out there. Just bring your kids with you to your kitchen and have fun. Make cooking fun. Make eating the foods that are good for them fun.
Mhm.
Just make it like a game with them. And that was the way, the way I found to bring my son along with me. And it was easier than bringing my husband along.
And I totally agree. And the thing is, the children don't have the same memories with food than we have as adults. And we call those comfort foods. So I know there are days where I'm thinking about my parents, and there are some specific foods that come to mind. And as you did, there are some that I can make differently so they're not as unhealthy. But it takes a lot of, how could I say, know it all to get to a point where, oh, if I didn't know, if you didn't tell me, I would not know that it wasn't made like it was. Because I remember sometimes, you would eat something, deep fried foods, and you could see the grease still dripping, and people were eating, and and I'm like, yeah, my stomach can't tolerate that. But as I worked with my kids, I figured out ways to maybe not have them exactly the same, but some of those fried foods, fried meats and things like that, there are ways to do it in the oven with a lot less grease
Yes.
and still maintain the taste. But as you say, it's this part where you have to, it's trial and error. There's no other
Yes.
way. And that would be
Yes.
for those things you have memory of. But when you're introducing them to your kids early, there's that whole heritage, that sense that in my background, oil is what gives taste. And it's like, no, oil doesn't give taste. It's the spices that give taste. And but it's this part where sometimes you could see that layer of oil, and that's the way it has always been done. But as you learn, as we educate ourselves, then there's different ways of doing. But preaching to the choir is a lot easier than bringing along those people with the memories in their head. It's like, no, that's not how my mom used to make it. No, it doesn't taste like my mom's or my brother's or which. So this is what we're struggling with in a lot of
Yeah.
situations when you have
Yeah.
spouses and families that are a little older, kids that are older, because there's that memory. I have a taste in my head, and
Yes.
until that taste is satisfied in my head, no matter what you put in my belly, it's not gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
So what would be the 5 top food or ingredients that we should all integrate in our diet?
So, yeah,
Yeah.
before jumping onto that, I want to add one more thing to that, though, to the
Okay.
previous question. And like 2 scientific facts that proves that we can actually retrain our brain and
Mhm.
our taste buds to start liking new foods, even foods that we thought that we didn't like.
Mhm.
And the trick to that is repetition. And that's the way actually kids learn. That is the way that they learn to eat new foods because everything is new for them, right?
Mhm.
That's the way they develop the liking or disliking of foods. The more they eat certain things, the more they start liking it. And that is through a couple of scientific facts. One is neuroplasticity, and the other one is our saliva changes
Yes.
chemically. But it's totally possible, but we have to stay on it, right?
Open-minded. I have to
And
be
that is
open-minded, and then also consistency.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's consistency is a bit challenging when you still haven't switched your mind over. And that's the part when you if you still, I don't have time, this in my country, most of the
Yeah.
food we make take time. So figuring out an alternative takes less time than to actually do it the way it used to be done. So that you have to be able to see what would be the plus value of changing. So can we go back to the top foods? Because I'd like people to know, what else, what should I bring that would make me healthier or make my how could I say, my body healthier? Because healthier doesn't always mean skinnier.
Yeah. So this is a great question, and and I don't want to be giving everyone the same old, which is, well, eat more veggies and eat more fruits, and that should, like, it's like all of us know that, right? We
Mhm.
all know it. The problem is, why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we prioritizing those foods? And so, this is, I feel like this is such a transformational time in the world. Like, we're seeing this pandemic. We're seeing these, like, already into the third year of this new thing that is, hitting our doors every day and be living among us. And we keep listening and hearing, saying, well, the people who have the lowest immune system, the more compromised immune system, the people who have underlying health
Diabetes.
issues, are the people who are at the highest risk, right? And so I feel like and one of the things I keep telling people is, well, we should be focusing on the foods that help our immune system and reduce
Mhm,
inflammation in our bodies. Those are the two things that we should be doing,
mhm,
literally,
mhm,
period. And so, which foods are those? Yes, you guessed it, probably. It's, in general, more vegetables, more whole grains. That's a
mhm,
big one. A lot of us, again, going back to the empty calories part, the white breads, the white flours, all of those things that are, yes, they are
empty.
going to make us full quickly, and they're going to give us this boost of energy, but that energy is
Temporary.
going to dissipate super quick. And also, we are going to feel hungry quicker
Mhm,
after eating those things. And and so and the other things that a lot of people don't know, you mentioned one of those, which are the spices.
mhm,
Oh my goodness, spices are medicine. A
mhm,
lot of us underestimate the power of our spices and herbs.
mhm,
And, legumes and seeds,
mhm,
those are things, like, not we think, and a lot of people think, protein is just the meat, the
mhm,
eggs, the dairy, right?
mhm,
But we are missing out on an amazing source of protein, which is the legumes and the beans.
mhm.
And and we should all be, and they are, like, I find them, like, they are the superfood, because they are not only protein, but they are also fiber, they are also carbohydrate, they have so much in them.
Mhm.
And the average person might go even months without eating a single legume or bean in their diet. And I feel like we're missing out in so much of that. So I feel like, if I have to give you five, increase it, yes, your green vegetables, particularly. It doesn't have to be in salads only, can be smoothies, can be soups, can be stews, can be
Mhm.
whatever you make. And then whole grains, like, if you want to love your bread, love your pasta, focus on whole grains. There's so many options out there. And here's another thing, like, a lot of people tell me, yes, but they tend to be more expensive. And I'd say yes and no. Like, what what, like, stop a second, whenever someone tells me I'm not gonna buy these, say, these eggs that are high in omega-3, organic or whatever, because they are like $3 more expensive than the regular ones. It's like, okay, what is costing you to not be healthy? What is costing, like, what are you paying? And there are so many costs that we don't even can put a dollar sign into.
And in that conversation, it goes back for me because I sometimes have this conversation as well with individuals, and it's instant gratification versus long-term gain. So right now, I'm seeing that, oh, that's $3 less in my pocket. But then you're thinking, but I'm paying for my medication for either high blood pressure, for diabetes, and all kinds of things. So it's this part, because depending on the way you manage your diet, you can find yourself removing some of the needs for either prescription drugs, some of the need for crutches or whatever else, because I've put on too much weight or my articulations are suffering. So there's different ways of looking at it. But again, it's making those connections, because sometimes we're not making the connections, and as we're not making the connection and popping in those linked chocolate, we might not realize that my knees are giving out because there's too much weight on that body cannot accommodate all of that. And those are small little things, as you say, it's every day. What would be, you've mentioned the things that we should integrate, those things that we should stop using. And I know there's things that come to my mind that are obvious, but go ahead.
Yeah, the number one thing I would say is the processed sugars. Mm-hmm. And probably that was one of the obvious ones that came to your mind. And it's obvious for a lot of people but they don't realize that they can actually keep eating their sweets, keep having their sweets in their life without those processed sugars.
Yeah.
And that is one of my favorite things to do also, is to show people how you can use fruits, whole fruits, how there are so many types of natural sweeteners that are way less health, how do I say this, way less not, or way healthier, I would say, for you, better for you than the regular processed sugars that are out there.
I know we've made the switch in my family, instead of the white sugar. Even if you move towards the brown sugar, the less processed sugar, and it's on a path to something else, honey might be a better choice than white sugar. So there's different options, but as you say, it's one day at a time. You're not going to go from sugar to no sugar. But what are some of the things that you can integrate? I know as well, when you look at those fruits, discover new fruits. And it's this part where you're hungry for something sweet, and you have mangoes. Mangoes fill you and then give you that sensation of, I got something sweet. Of course, you have to be able to pick a mango so that you don't have the ones that are so sour, but it's those elements, and it's learning to look at what you put in your body from a different stance.
Yeah, and the second thing that I would definitely tell most people to, if there's one thing that you would stop eating altogether besides the sugar, is the fried foods. We don't realize, and we think that it's just our digestive system that suffers, or that is just maybe the accumulation of fat in our cholesterol and all of that. That's like the direct connection, but people don't realize that that the formation of the toxins every time we heat oil above a certain temperature, and that those toxins are literally going into every single cell of our body and making and creating free radicals. I don't want to go into a
Yeah.
lot of scientific stuff here, but literally is making our cells to function worse.
Yeah.
And it's actually also making the communication between our cells worse.
Less effective.
So yes, less effective. And that is what what literally triggers all of these, all of these chronic diseases that we are seeing all over the place, that we are start now suffering from those diseases at an earlier age than ever. So, and it's like so related to the way the food industry have put us into, or is dragging us into, eating more and more of those foods and less from the foods that literally love us back.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Being conscious of time, because this is a great conversation. So much information shared. I want to ask, and those who know me know that I'm all about boundaries. And if we have to move towards conscious eating, that's still part of those boundaries you have to apply for yourself. So, what boundary have you implemented in your personal or professional life that has created the most personal growth for you?
Yes. So I feel like the one boundary that has made the most impact in my life has been start giving myself the time to reflect and connect with what I really wanted to do in my life. I mentioned that I have been an engineer for the last 22 years, and 3 years ago I literally stopped myself and I started thinking, I'm on this, I am this like constant run, go situation. And I'm working on these, I was working in an amazing company. I had great coworkers. My working environment was super good, was a fulfilling job for me. But I was solving problems for someone else who was becoming richer and richer over time. And yes, even though they had a lot of programs, social programs and everything, I felt like I was not really making an impact. I felt like I was not literally touching lives. I was
Because
not.
you're talking about having that sense of meaning, that sense
Yes.
of, okay, now I'm giving myself the time to do something that truly nurtures my soul, where I can actually interact with other people and know that I'm making a difference. And that's the part, because there are certain fights, because let's just say, I'm sure that conscious eating, there are some people who say, yeah, whatever, when I'll be sick, I'll call you. But you're trying to get them to the point where I don't want you to get sick and then have to go back and maybe hope for a little better instead of having the best from the get-go. So I hear you.
So definitely, definitely taking that time to reflect, and not only to do the reflection and come up with that realization that there has to be more, and that I really wanted to make a bigger impact. But then taking the actions, right? Like taking action on that, because it's like having an idea is great, but if you don't make it happen, it's like it's never happening.
So what I'm hearing is that this is Liz time.
Yes.
It is
Yes.
Liz time. I made time for Liz to be the best version of herself and make a difference in the world.
And I remember so much, the day I went to talk to my manager at the time, to tell him my decision of resigning from my position as an engineer in the company. And he asked me for the reasons. And when I gave him the reasons, he literally sat back. I felt like I touched something in him, that it was such a surprise when I told him, you know what, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go out and I'm going to help women, professional women, to do this thing, to learn how to literally nurture themselves and feel better and transfer that to their children, to their families. And he was like, whoa. He thought I was leaving for another company because someone was going to pay me a higher wage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't have any clients yet. I have nothing, but I'm doing this. And he was like, what?
And this is, I think, and I don't know about you, but the last few years, and maybe the pandemic has accelerated that for a lot of people, is just the sense of that crazy pace for something where it pays the bills, but I might not feel that I'm making a difference, to figuring out, how do I get that sense that I'm leaving a legacy that is bigger than just the house or the car that are in the driveway? And that's the difference. That's the meaningful. If there was one key message that you want to leave with with our audience, what would that be?
I would love to give so many messages, but the one thing
The one thing they gotta know.
One thing they gotta know is that there's never gonna be the perfect time.
Yes.
The perfect time is now. And that our bodies are the vehicle that allow us to transform our ideas, our desires, or even share love to the people we want to be with.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we are not taking care of this body, then what is left?
Yeah, I know.
What is just left?
I know.
So
I'm with you on that. No questions asked. I'm totally there. It's just the sense where you get to a point and it's just, you just don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and feel like, yeah, it's still not feeding me. So I know we talk about the food conscious eating, but there's also the mind eating. It's just what is nurturing my soul, what is nurturing my mind, what makes me feel like I am making a difference. And that's important.
yeah.
So how can people get in contact with you or hear about some of the activities? Because now you have a business, now you want to help people, and you're also doing those wonderful cooking demonstration. I feel so bad that I'm so far away from you, because she's from Calgary, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I can just drop by your cooking demonstration.
Yeah, so the cooking demonstrations are actually online, so you can totally join in. They happen in my Facebook community, in the Conscious Eating Tribe. Every Tuesday, I share either I do a cooking demonstration, or I just go live sharing, information just like what we have been talking about today. I go deep dive into just one single point, share information. I share about specific ingredients, how to what are the best sugar options, for instance, that you can use, what are the best cooking oil options that you can use, things like that. Top foods for inflammation. So anyways, that is in the Conscious Eating Tribe community.
Okay.
And one of the things that I find the people that come to me struggle the most is with the sugars. Mm-hmm. Right? And we don't realize how addictive sugar can be, and how our lifestyles is so promoting us to go back and keep digging into those sweets that we know are not super helpful for us.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who really want to stay away from them. They are really trying and they are not finding the way to do it. So I put together this a guide where I share 7 easy, like super easy things that are scientifically proven to help people stay away from the sugar cravings. And it does not involve totally not eating your sweets. You can actually eat your sweets, but the smart ones.
Yeah.
So that guide, yes, you got the link there. Anyone can just download that guide. Is, as I said, is a really 3 pages, really condensed, point. This is what you can do. And the one thing is that we don't have to do it all. You don't have to do it all. Just pick 1 or 2 things that you feel like, yeah, I can totally stick with this.
Yeah.
And that will definitely move you forward.
And I would say sugar is a big one for anybody, whether you're diabetic or not. Sugar is a quick fix that creates all kinds of challenges afterwards. So yes, thank you for this wonderful conversation, and I am so looking forward to joining your community and checking those. I love cooking demonstrations, so instead of doing Netflix, I will do Liz.
Totally.
And at least with Liz, I might have this impression that I am taking something I can apply, because some of those cooking show, it's like it's wonderful. It might taste wonderful, but there's nothing I can do with it. So thank you. And it has been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, it has been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Paula. This was so much fun. And I really hope that some of this is getting, helping someone out there.
That's it. That's all we can hope. Thank you.